a little suspect there that, they can master, the physics and, and interstellar travel to such a place, but they have to crash land in some haystack or something, and something just doesn't seem right there. That's anyway, I know I like that explanation. I thought that was as good as any I've ever heard, so. Okay, that wasn't rapid fire, I'm sorry.
No, it's good, all right.
Okay, what do you say?
And how they fit into the Bible.
Yeah, God created all the animals, fifth and sixth day. The birds and the fish on the fifth day, land animals on the sixth day. They're part of God's original creation, Job 38 to 41. Job seemed to have seen two different animals we would classify as a dinosaur, the behemoth and the leviathan. Those are actually transliterations, again, of the Hebrew. Behemoth means behemoth, leviathan, leviathan. Behemoth sounds like what we would used to term brontosaurus, which never existed, by the way. Apatosaurus was probably a closer description to that. But, thank you. Oh, there you guys are on the front. I wonder. So, yeah, it seemingly lived at the same time as humanity, which, of course, would kill the theory of evolution, which the dinosaurs, died out 65 million years ago. And so so anyway, if we're going rapid fire, I had a joke, but I won't tell it. Go ahead, we just move on. We're rapid fire here.
I want to ask the question, when the Bible in Revelation says that the sea gave up its dead, do you have any speculation what that means, like they're talking about?
Yeah, the sea usually refers to like the nations in the world that gave up their dead. In other words, what it's talking about, everything gives up the dead. When there's a final judgment, in other words, all those who have died, wherever they died from the nations, comes out of the sea, come out of the land. We're told the first beast and the second beast. The first beast comes out of the sea, which usually refers to the nations. The second beast comes from the earth, which may refer to Israel, the land of Israel. The sea gave up the dead means the nations give up their dead. Everybody gives up the dead. In other words, the final judgment, everyone's there. Not necessarily the ones that have died at sea or anything like that. Everyone is there at the judgment. In other words, it's comprehensive is what it's trying to say, probably, most likely. In other words, all that have died are going to be in front of the great white throne there that died outside of Christ. It's an excellent question, though.
Good. Okay, let's, Renee, you want me to come to you? Okay,
the lady in the back in the red there. On camera.
Okay.
Okay, I'll see if I can get this question out. I've been hearing a lot of Ezekiel 9 recently, and so my question is, do you think that the Christians, believers celebrating Christmas, having Christmas trees, celebrating Easter, is something detestable unto the Lord?
Okay. Is celebrating Christmas or Easter detestable unto the Lord? Not at all. Christmas, we celebrate the birth of Christ. And by the way, the passages there in Jeremiah and that have nothing to do with the modern Christmas tree or anything like that. Easter is an unfortunate word. It's actually the Passover, which when the time that the King James says Easter there when they're in Jerusalem for Easter. No, it was Passover. Easter is a term that's been brought into the Bible. It's not biblical there. No, I think with Christmas and Easter, you need to celebrate in the right attitude. Easter celebrates the time Jesus came back from the dead, and by all means, we want to celebrate that, whatever you want to call it, Resurrection Day or whatever, and call it whatever you want. Easter is the popular term now. If you ask 100 people here in Oahu what Easter means, 100 of them say, well, it's the celebrating the resurrection, research the roots of that and the pagan origins of that. No one thinks of that right away, in other words. Same thing with Christmas, with the Christmas tree and all that. Yeah, a lot of the things with respect to the Christmas tree are pagan in origin. But remember, Christmas, we're trying, well, we should be anyway, celebrating the fact that God the Son was born at a particular time in history. What we do at our house, and what I learned it from Calvary Chapel Costa Mesa the first year at Christmas time, instead of Merry Christmas, we had these little signs that Happy Birthday Jesus. And so we'd show them to people, and people thought, oh yeah, that's what it's all about. So if we can say Happy Birthday Jesus instead of Merry Christmas or that horrible Happy Holidays, then we can really, let the people know what the season's all about. And so no, I don't think there's a problem with that. If you want to have a Christmas tree, fine. If you don't, fine. We do it in our family, but our kids know that, Christmas is all about Jesus and not about presents and that, and that's where it's at. Good question, though.
It's 8:34. Okay. So we can go a little bit long. We're used to it, trust me.
They are? Yeah. You're long-winded? Really?
No, yeah.
Nothing's changed. Then.
Yeah, that's right. So if you have to go, go. Okay, all heads bowed, eyes closed, leave at this time. If you wouldn't mind staying, can we
I can stay
a little bit
I
longer?
got
Yeah.
nothing to do, nothing else to do.
We can take a few more questions, and again, I know there's a lot of good questions that were written down. I know there's a lot of you that have a lot of questions, so try to, if you can, in the interest of time, be as brief as possible, and
something that made me think. You said something about Christians that are buried and to be resurrected when the Lord comes. My question is, what about the Christians who chose to be cremated, believing that, there was nothing wrong with it? Because you got me thinking when you mentioned that.
Okay, good question. No, what we mentioned too, we said cremation is, let's put it this way, whether a person's buried or cremated on his passing or later. So no, there's not, with cremation, sometimes there's financial, reasons that happen, sometimes the request of the person, and in some land to do it. I understand Tokyo, you can't bury the dead there. Is that not right? Because no room for cemeteries? Because I've been told that anyway. And I know there's some place in the world, because the population is so dense, there's really no place to actually bury the dead, so cremation's the only impossibility. The Lord understands that. The point I was making, the early church, the pagans used to burn their dead because they were making a statement by it, and everybody understood that. The Christians in opposition to that would bury their dead, saying, no, we believe in something afterwards. But no, God's got to pull us all back together anyway, one way or another, and so whether we're cremated or buried, bottom line is, he's going to have to do a miracle anyway in putting us back together, giving us a glorified body. So it's really, in a sense, a non-issue, as it were. Okay? Good question. One back here. Yes, sir. Yes.
1,000 years. I was wondering if you can expound on that and tell us something about that.
Yeah, in Revelation chapter 20, 7 times it talks about a 1,000-year reign of Christ on the earth, and at the end of the 1,000 years there's a judgment called the Great White Throne Judgment. The millennial is a time where basically the conditions that were there in Eden will come back to the earth, where there'll be peace basically upon the earth. There will still be sin, but it will really be lowered. There'll be people going into this millennial period. They actually have bodies like yours and mine, not the New Testament church, but people who believe in Jesus during that final 70th week of Daniel, final 7-year period. They will have children, and their children will have a chance to believe in Jesus. What is mind-boggling but not totally incomprehensible is the fact that at the end of that period, where the Bible says Satan, who had been bound for those 1,000 years, is released, he will deceive the nations, and countless people will actually follow Satan and rebel against God. Even though they've been living in peace, they know God, Jesus is God the Son, that God has all these wonderful things, yet still they will refuse to believe in him. And the problem is simply this: the human heart is deceitful and desperately wicked above all things. Jeremiah 17:9 says, who can know it? And that's what problem we will see at that particular time. And so yeah, there'll be a 1,000-year period of time where there'll actually be people living on the earth who know God exists, know that Jesus is God's Son, know all the truth, and still won't make any difference. No atheists in that day at all, but still people will refuse to believe. Human heart is wicked, and that's why we need a Savior.
Can a person with Alzheimer's be led to Christ?
That's a good question. As long as a person is breathing, and alive, I would try and get the gospel to them. The problem is sometimes people get to the place where they've gone past the level of comprehending, the gospel and that. Let me say this. I don't know if this may not relate the same thing, but I know people in comas can certainly hear what's being said. We have a good friend. When last 2 years ago we lived for a while, my wife and daughters in Iowa, and tremendous testimony this young lady have. Deb Hayworth, she got encephalitis in a trip down to Mexico, and the doctors basically said, get your family together because she ain't going to live. And there's a lot of prayer going up for her. A lot of, and the doctor said even if she lives, she won't be able to function, but there's not even a chance, very small chance she's going to live. Well, Deb not only survived, but is as capable as you and I, if not more capable to this day. God miraculously not only healed her answered the prayers, but brought her back.